Good afternoon, everyone. So when I looked at the list of panelists, I was like, okay, wow, we've got Commander Lou, and he's going to cover public safety. You know, we're going to have the deep dive in the technology from our esteemed professors, and get a good view of biometrics and such from NEC. It's like, what can I do to kind of complement that and provide some different perspective? And I decided to focus in on retail. About 3 years ago, the research team that I lead at Motorola Solutions started to look in the retail space to understand what the problems were and where video analytics could potentially come in and solve those problems. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, you know, why focus in on retail? Well, you know, the first point is that if you can show a retailer that they're going to increase their revenue and improve their profitability, they're going to spend the money. They're going to make that investment. Whereas maybe in public safety, you may have budgetary constraints and such. It's basically, if there's an ROI, they're going to spend the money. So it's an interesting area to look at for that reason. And retailers are particularly motivated nowadays to improve their operations, improve their operational efficiencies because of pressures of the big box stores, and then especially now the emergence of online retail. So they're very motivated to find ways to improve their bottom line. The second point, you know, why is now the right time? And really, technology has made tremendous progress in the last 10 years. We all know this, right? I mean, in terms of the growth of available sensors and cameras and such to provide data, ability to easily network that in, and then the processing power to do complex algorithms that can solve problems. That combined with the availability of low-cost components, the mobile phone market has really driven that from a camera perspective, makes it possible. Sort of zeroing in on video analytics, though, you know, machine learning, you know, that we heard referenced earlier, has made great impact, you know, in the computer vision world in terms of what can actually be achieved. And all of this really got a heightened investment when 9/11 happened. And so over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of investment in taking these maturing technologies and seeing how we can actually solve real-world problems. And while there's still a lot of problems to be solved, you know, as Aglos was pointing out all the challenges that there are, there's also a lot of opportunity to bring real value to the industry. And that has happened in the public safety space. Now, why retail? Well, the fact of the matter is the key technologies that have drawn all that money in the public safety space are really about recognizing, tracking people and objects. You know, it's understanding who's where, the left bag, etc. Well, those are the same technologies that are needed in the retail environment. The retailers want to understand who their customers are, what they're doing, and leverage that information. And they also, very important, is they need to understand their inventory. The inventory, besides the real estate that retailers use, is the biggest area where their cash, their investment is made, and they need to efficiently manage that. So, so there's a real opportunity to take those technologies and now apply them in the retail space. The last point here is the good news is that in the retail environment, actually, in some sense, it's easier than public safety. Public safety, you're outside, it's nighttime, it's raining. Retailers, it's indoor, you've got controlled lighting, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of where you put the cameras and other sensors. So in a certain sense, it makes the problem a little bit easier. So we can take those technologies and apply them in that way. And of course, they have access to the infrastructure of their buildings, so they can easily deploy these. So that's the thing there. So let me kind of give you a high-level view of the use cases where there's value in the retail market for video analytics. You know, firstly, security, it's an obvious thing. I mean, people have been using cameras in security for security in retail for a long time. Of course, the advances from analog cameras to the high-resolution digital IP-accessible cameras makes it very easy now to add in the analytics on top of that. Customer service. So again, being able to understand what people are doing. So some simple things, being able to count the number of people who are waiting in line so that we can reduce wait times. To perhaps detect that a customer has been lingering in a certain area, maybe he's got questions, the so-called dwell time. It's time to send an alert to a store associate to go and see if you can provide some assistance. And then lastly, loyalty programs, right? So if you can recognize your loyal customers when they come in and provide customized, personalized assistance to them, that can be particularly helpful. Now, this is an area where you start to cross over into the creep zone. If you've seen Minority Report, Tom Cruise walks into, I think it's the Gap, and he's greeted by name and say, give him a little promotional advertisement. And so I think the technology is starting to be there to do these kinds of things. So the question is, what is the right user experience? What do people want to have? And maybe we'll have a little discussion about that during the panel. Insights about the consumers. So in the online space, retailers have a very good idea of what previous sites they've been to, what products they've looked at, et cetera, et cetera. They need to have that same capability in the brick-and-mortar environment as well, so that they know that customers that went and were in one department then went to another department to pick up something else. Understanding the demographics of the people who are shopping in their store helps them to tailor their offerings as well. And lastly, and this is very critical, is operational efficiency. It all comes down to the bottom line. Retail is particularly a low-margin business, so they really watch their pennies. And any opportunity to improve it is something they do. So inventory management is a key thing. If a product is out of stock and not on the shelf, that's likely a lost sale. Not only for that item, but potentially for related items, or if the customer is really dissatisfied, he walks out, he doesn't come back. So it's not only the one item that's out of sale, it has a ripple effect. So it's really important to prevent out of stock. I've got some data on that. Merchandising is also a key thing. Making sure that product is properly displayed in order to make it easier for customers to find it and more likely to buy. And then staffing is making sure that you've got the right store associates in the right place at the right time. So knowing where your customers are in the store and where your staff is and making sure that they match is critical. So a lot of use cases you can see, from the discussions we had already about the technologies, you can start to imagine how they can map in to solve these activities. So just to put some numbers behind this in terms of loss prevention, point-of-sale fraud, sometimes called sweethearting. If you want, I can explain that later. But basically, 80 million annual in lost revenue due to that. Shoplifting, again, big numbers. We're talking many billions of dollars. Out of stock, and this was Walmart alone, which I should have highlighted 5 billion rather than 3 billion. Sorry, 5 billion in additional sales are lost because product is out of stock. Another quote here, that 4% of annual sales are lost due to out of stock conditions. So, big opportunity to solve this problem. And as I said before, increase revenue, reduce costs, and have satisfied customers. So, just kind of show the mapping of the technologies, and actually, two previous presenters did a nice job of going through these technologies. But you can start to see the mapping, right? So being able to identify your loyalty customers that are in the store, as I mentioned before, activity recognition, potentially unsafe movements, which maybe someone's lifting heavy boxes improperly, is an area of interest. As we heard, from NEC, they have things around gender and age categorization and how that can help. Person tracking, we talked about that. Crowd monitoring, if there's understanding the flow, where most of your traffic is in the store, and that can help plan your merchandising as well. And then you're recognizing sort of crowd behavior. So all of these are around understanding what people are doing, and a lot of opportunities around that. Just to kind of give one example here. Here's a system that basically it's been trained to recognize the staff members, the uniformed staff in a crowd of people, so you can help distinguish your customers from your employees. So kind of moving on to the object recognition side of things. I think most people are familiar with the Google Goggles notion, where you have an application and you can identify a brand product. That's very much a consumer kind of application. But if you take that consumer application and think about extending the technology to handle the more challenging cases, which you have dozens, potentially hundreds of products. Some of them are multiple copies of the same thing in a single image. How do you solve that problem? Well, as it turns out, there are a small number of companies that are looking in this space. This is an example from Panorama. How to do this kind of recognition. And when you do that kind of recognition, it really allows you to deliver value in a couple of ways, right? So here's just kind of a step through this. So you take a picture, you do the object recognition by comparing the picture to the set of products that you have in your database. And from that, for example, detect that there's these areas here where there's supposed to be products, right? So send an alert to a worker that says, these products need to be restocked so that they can take care of that. Because a lot of times there's more stock, but it's in the back room, right? So but sometimes there's not product in the back room either, right? So then that ties into the whole ordering process and making sure that they're getting the right product into the store. So you can also generate reports that gives those kinds of insights, so they can improve their ordering models, make sure that they're keeping the right inventory in the stores. So that's the end of my spiel on retail. I threw in one slide here, on public safety, just so I can be part of the fun on this. This is sort of the vision of the future of what safe cities could be. I'm not going to go through all these technologies. I think we've heard a good share of them. I think in the context of the Boston situations, this automated video forensics would be something that would be very valuable. I think if you guys were like me, I was like, as tragic as the whole thing was, it was very interesting to have such visibility through the media as to what was going on. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, but you got a feeling for, maybe they had some assistive tools, as we talked about, assistive tools, but it just takes a lot of eyes to piece things together, and skilled professionals who know how to piece them together. But if we could get to the sort of this holy grail of some automated video forensics, still the assistive tools, I'm sure there's a lot of problems to solve to make it fully automated. But the more assistive we can be, the more quickly we can get to not only the forensics, but hopefully real-time addressing issues before they happen. That's what I have to say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.